Hi, my name's Carissa and welcome to another video. Today I thought I'd do a mini review of The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is going to be a non-spoilery review, so don't worry about that. And without further ado, let's just get into it. So, The Name of the Wind revolves around this character called Kvothe. At least that's how I think you pronounce it. And we've got two perspectives in this book. We have the present day, in which she is currently an innkeeper, and that is in the third person perspective. And then we have him telling a story, and that's in the first person perspective. And it follows him as he kind of grows up, and it's a coming of age story. I really enjoyed this book generally. I did feel it kind of lost a bit of momentum at the end. I kind of lost a bit of interest in it. But overall I thought it was a very well written and very interesting story. So in present day, Kvothe is currently going by Kote, and he is hiding from who he really is. No one knows that he's Kvothe, so when this chronicler turns up and is like, I know who you are, he kind of is a bit like, But this chronicler, who is a man who chronicles everything in history, writes down people's stories, he wants to know Kvothe's. So he agrees and they sit at this inn and he tells his story. That is present day. They go back to it several times throughout the book as a kind of breather because it is very heavy going, his story. I'm not a big fan of first person perspectives. I just don't like the way they're normally written, but I really did like the way it was written in this. So in the past we follow Kvothe going from his childhood and kind of learning to become a man, and in it he goes through a lot of heartbreak and trials and tribulations, and we follow him on the journey. And about the 100th page mark something happens and it's very, very emotional and very hard going, and I was crying. I was very emotionally invested in it, so by that time I just was bawling my eyes out basically. And I like the fact that when this thing happens around the 100 page mark, it's not something that is kind of glossed over, because sometimes in books I feel they gloss over this certain subject quite a bit, and I like the fact that time was spent on it and he self-destructed, and as horrible as it was to see things go worse, I like the fact that it showed that he needed to go through this because he wasn't coping, and I really liked that about the story. And I love Kvothe as a character. I thought it was very interesting. We are getting it from an unreliable narrator, this story, because it is Kvothe telling his story. So he does look in the best light in all the book really. He shows himself in the best light because he is the one telling the story. So even when he's doing stupid things, you can't hate him because of the fact that he's turned it a bit, so he is not the bad guy. A character I really struggled with is Denna in this book. She comes in and I think she's interesting when she first pops up, but when she returns I didn't really like her and I didn't get on with her. She was a character that I feel kind of dragged this book down a little bit, because when she's more involved in it later on, that's when it loses its momentum, because I think for me I just wasn't invested in a character. Yes, she had some interesting kind of facts about her, but really in theory she should have been an interesting character, but really as we went along she wasn't that interesting to me and I wasn't very invested. I loved the friends Kvothe made along the way, and overall I think this is a really good book. I like the way it's set up for the second one. I really did enjoy this book. It is a little bit chunky. It's over 660 pages long, and for me it was very easy to get into. A lot of these kind of epic fantasy books, it takes me a little while to get into them, but this I really liked how quick it was to get into. And basically the first bit of the book is setting up the present day, and it's set up very well and very quickly, so then you could just dive into his backstory and learn about the character. I gave this originally, I believe I gave it 4.5 on Goodreads. I am someone who kind of thinks afterwards and always drops my ratings, just because of the fact that I reflect on it and realise actually it's not as great as I thought it was. This I'm rating 4 stars. I would have rated it higher because I loved the first part of the book especially, but the last act of it just really lost momentum for me, and I found myself a bit bored reading it. And I'm hoping that that doesn't continue in the next one. I'm hoping that the momentum starts building up again, and I'm going to continue with the series. Definitely, I have actually bought the second one. It's on my shelf. So I highly recommend this book. It's a very good taste to fantasy as well. If you're someone who's a bit about fantasy and don't know how to get into these chunky books, this one's actually a very good way to start, because it is a coming of age story first. The fantasy is kind of second. So Name of the Wind, 4 stars. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment down below if you've read it and have any views on it. I'll put my Goodreads in the description. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye!